But first, a new study out of Northwestern University has revealed a surprising connection between the COVID-19 virus and cancer. Researchers found that the virus may be able to shrink some tumors. Now, this is emerging science and just one study, but the team from Northwestern says COVID, that COVID, it could help scientists develop future cancer treatments. We should also mention that just last week, the CDC offered new information on how people with cancer can lower their risk of getting COVID. And the guidance, it's very clear. Anyone with cancer should stay away from the virus as much as possible. But here with details of this new study is Chicago Sun-Times reporter Kaitlin Washburn. Hey, Kaitlin, welcome back.
Hey, Sasha.
So I want to help us wrap our minds around this because this seemed a little wacky to me at first. But how did Northwestern researchers come about this? I mean, when did they realize that there is this possible connection between COVID and cancer?
Yeah. So doctors first, and not just doctors at Northwestern, but doctors treating patients who both had cancer and severe COVID, noticed in some patients a temporary regression in their cancer. So that meant that their tumors, for example, shrunk temporarily. This is something that they noticed and documented, and other doctors did at the time. But what the researchers did at Northwestern was dug into why this was happening.
Mm-hmm. So this research, it was conducted by a team at Northwestern Medicine Canning Thoracic Institute specifically. So talk more about what they found.
Yeah, so the team was led by Dr. Ankit Barrett, and I spoke with him. He's the chief of thoracic surgery at Northwestern and the director of the Canning Institute. And I spoke with him for this story, and he explained that COVID is a type of RNA virus, and another RNA virus that we're familiar with is the influenza or flu. Mm-hmm. But what they learned that with the RNA, specifically only in the COVID virus, it has this ability to trigger the creation of a unique immune cell that can fight cancer. And so what it's doing is it's taking the common monocyte, which is a white blood cell in the immune system, and it's turning it into this powerful immune cell. And those cells are then able to travel to the tumor or the location of cancer and attack the cancer cells inside the tumor. They're also able to recruit what are called natural killer cells, which is another type of white blood cell, but it's been proven to be powerful and effective at killing cancer. So I think one thing it's worth stepping back on this, is explaining a little bit more about how cancer works and how it is that cancer is able to evade our immune system. This is something that's, it's the bedrock for how they try to treat cancer. Especially given the human immune system is remarkable. I mean, we're infected with a virus, the immune system is triggered and it fights that virus. It takes on any foreign thing that enters the body. So why is cancer able to evade it? A part of that, and please, for all the scientists and doctors listening, know that I am explaining this very simply and explaining one part of this.
Right.
There's a protein that cancer has that is able to take that common monocyte that I was just talking about, that the COVID virus is able to transform. And it's able to turn that cell into a friendly cancer cell. So not only does that mean that cell then is not fighting the cancer, it's also fighting the body's other immune cells. So I think what makes this discovery exciting, and like you said, this is still very much so in the early stage, but it's harness what the COVID virus is able to do is basically like turning that monocyte into a double agent. So that cell then is turned into that cancer fighting cell, but the cancer doesn't know that, and it's it's still recruiting that cell to the tumor, and so it's inviting it in, and then that cell is then fighting the cancer within the tumor.
And so these findings will help develop a treatment that sort of mimics how the virus makes those immune cells.
Exactly.
So one thing I want to reiterate, of course, after that wonderful explanation, for people listening, I mean, don't try to get COVID to fight any diseases like
Please
cancer.
Don't. Yeah.
Please don't. So do the researchers know yet whether this discovery has promise for treatments of all cancer, or is it certain cancers, or again, it's still too early to tell?
It's still too early for all cancers, but what they did test it on and what they found promising is that it's able to treat some of the more common cancers, and then also those same cancers that tend to be more aggressive, and that includes melanoma, lung, breast, and colon cancers.
Okay. Well, studies often lead to more studies and then eventually medical trials and maybe one day a new treatment. What do researchers say is next for them, though? And did they give any sort of timeline here?
Yeah. So like you said, this is still very early stages. This was a preclinical trial, so that means it has not been tested on patients yet. That is the next step. And this would not replace some of the more mainstay cancer treatments like immunotherapy, but this treatment would be used alongside something like immunotherapy or would be a secondary option, because another really exciting thing that the doctors found, or that the researchers found on this, is the cancer cells cannot develop a resistance to these cells, unlike with immunotherapy, which cancers can sometimes develop, can mutate and then evade that treatment, which is why some people see their cancer return after aggressive treatments.
We've been talking with Chicago Sun-Times reporter Kaitlin Washburn. Always a pleasure having you on the show. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sasha. Great to be here.